Welcome to Michiana Main Lines. Today we have a 4x8 HO layout tour. This is the layout that the shelf layout runs through. I am Connie Rail, assistant to the producer. So let's get started.
Thanks, Connie. There's been requests to do this, so we're finally getting around to it. This is a layout that used to be a standalone layout. It's a very old layout, about 40 years old, but 20 years ago, when the shelf layout was built, it was used as a part of the main line of the shelf layout. Here we see the connection from the shelf. There's the shelf on the right, and then there's the connection track, a flexible connection that connects to it and then runs across the layout to the other side. This straight section of track here at the far edge actually had two industries that were served on each side of it. It was just a dead-end spur on each side, but then the connection was made. You see it down there in the distance to the shelf, which is on both sides. We'll get a closer look at that connection later, but you can see here there's also a connection running between the layout and the shelf line, but that section of track right there where the diesel's parked hasn't actually really been used, maybe only but a couple times over the past 20 years, since both of the layouts are operated independently, but it is there if need be. We'll kind of take a look around here. Basically it's two loops on this layout, the bigger outer loop and then the inner loop. Pretty much the same track plan that this thing has had since it was originally built way back in the 70s. Of course, it wasn't as sophisticated back then, but since a lot has been added, a lot more scenery to make it look more presentable. Kind of zero in here one of the kits. This is probably one of the oldest buildings on the layout. That's an old Pike Stuff warehouse kit, kind of a scrapyard there, inside dock. Looking here now, we have a station on the corner, filling station. There's one of the newest kits, the Dairy Queen, a Walters kit that was just added in the past year. Still a little bit of details to be added to that. There used to be a Pizza Hut there for the longest number of years, but finally decided it was time to retire it. Now in this area here we kind of see that kind of two sidings there inside. That actually used to be a complete passing track, and then I went ahead and broke these just into two spurs. You see right over there the dead end spur where the middle track ends, and then the other siding branches off in that area and then comes around, and it will also dead end, but it first goes through the Menards power plant kit, which we see there, and that's a pretty sharp looking kit. Just couldn't resist buying it. There we have a tank car and hopper car unloading area, kind of grates under that tank car. That's kind of a new addition there as well. And then there's the dead end spur where that track ends. That's an old supermarket kit there. May go ahead and just make that a coal pile with a fence around it. Not too sure about that yet, but that's a possible future expansion. So we'll kind of zoom back here and just kind of look at the entire table there a little bit as we walk around another layout, and we'll continue with talking about this one. Like I said, it's an old table. It's a wonder it don't have termites yet. But there we zoom into the opposite corner there. Again, you get a good look at those two siding tracks to the left of the main line. Here's an old outdoor theater kit. That's a Blair line, kind of in disrepair, much like a lot of the outdoor theaters that are still around now, although some are open. There's a good look at the inside of the dock of the Menards coal building. Now here's another big new addition to the layout. This is also a Walters kit, a modern type warehouse, which has inside dock as well as outside multi-car capabilities. There we have more piping for tank cars and hopper cars. The silver kind of represents a graded unloading area for hopper cars. Still need to do more detailing on that, like maybe etching it to look like grates. There we have one of the boxcar docks right on the corner. The track actually kind of curves around it, but it still works out well enough that it's close enough to get by as a boxcar unloading dock. So kind of showing what you can do in a tight space area. It still kind of works out. Again, the inside dock there, nice thing about inside docks is you can almost justify putting any kind of a car inside. Nobody knows what goes on behind closed doors, especially if it's an unnamed building or warehouse like it is. We don't really know what their business is. They might just be a general warehouse, who knows. Modeler's license lets you really do whatever you want in that regard. But that's kind of a look at what that building looks like. And then we'll kind of move on around this other area here. There's a little bit of a neighborhood city scene. Streets, some houses. Probably need to do some work on that street to make it look more like a real one. There's a look at the outside dock area of that building named Duracell now. It used to be named by the place I worked for quite a few years, but I decided it was time to change. New church kit, that's also a Walters with a parking lot. Then we have another neighborhood scene in the background there with some fancier houses. Here's a siding that has two spurs. This is kind of like a salvaging scrapyard. Another small inside dock building to accommodate some boxcars, possibly for rubber tire loading or something along those lines. And that was actually a Walters kit that was a part of their ethanol plant building stuff, but I pressed it into service here as it was just the right size and kind of fitted the need. It could be rusted out to make it look a lot more authentic, but as you noticed from my other video, I'm not that much into the weathering and backdrops and all of that. I just like to get some scenery in place, and pretty much the operation switching is what I'm into. That little freight station there over on the right, you see, that's an old Tyco kit that was actually really old, from early on in the 70s when this first layout started. Again, this board is probably 40 years old. When I was a little kid, this was the first board for my Marx 027 layout, and it was also used by the family periodically to play ping pong when the 027 was dismantled. But in the 70s I finally got into HO, and then it was just track on a grass mat. After college I finally put scenery on it and started to get more serious about it, but it remained at my parents' house. And then just 20 years ago I brought it over to this location, and then really started using it and hooked it up to the shelf. So it kind of has a long glorious past, I guess you could say. Here's the other end of the table now, where it connects to the shelf on the other side. Kind of just a curved track was put in place there. Another kind of a bridge with some vegetation under it to make it look a little bit interesting, and then it runs on to the shelf layout board. That shelf layout is covered very well in a separate video, as well as some cab rides and other things. So I hope you enjoyed this. What we're going to do here is we'll close out yet with some cab ride shots of both the trains operating on these loops, as well as some train camera looks just from different angles at ground level, and so you can kind of get a better idea of what it looks like. But it just goes to show you what you can do in a very small space, with just a 4x8, and you can put in a lot of detail and such. So hope you enjoy. There's another HO and 3 027 layouts. We just might do this same thing for them to kind of break up the content of the channel. So keep watching the video shorts here, and enjoy.
Here we have several short cab ride shots and ground level angle views to close out. I hope you have enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe even if you didn't. I hope to be part of the next production, so see you later.